Hey, what's up, everybody? Jay Pounds here. We got my weekly rebuild video for you. Um, Hope you like my pixie sticks in the background. I'm a candy addict. No, before we get into the video, I want to talk about a little bit about the rookie drafts. I got one I'm gonna show you real quick. It's from one of my leagues. I did not have a first round pick, so it'll give you guys a little bit of a different opinion than us writers give you all the time on these guys. Let me show you just real quick how this went. We had Trevor Lawrence, Najee Harris, Trey Lance at 3, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts all the way down to 9, Zach Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones, and Terrace Marshall rounding out the first. If you guys want to see the second and third round, I'm not going to take all the time and read it out. You guys probably, I'm sure you know all of these players by now, but you can pause the video and check them out. I did get Rashad Bateman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Javion Hawkins in this one. I had a lot of fun with the rookie draft. The trading aspect was awesome of it. I loved the fact that when you went to draft a player, and if you had a trade pending, it would pop up and wouldn't let you draft that player till you address that trade. That was honestly probably my favorite part about it, other than the players I got. Obviously, my other draft, man, I had a plan going into it. This one I didn't exactly have a plan because I had no idea how that was going to play out. Excuse me. But the other one, I had 4 picks in the top 7, either the top 7 or 8, and I had a plan, and it played out perfect. I did make one trade, which I usually don't do. When I go into these rookie drafts and I have draft picks, for the most part, I'm pretty settled on who I want and what my plan is. And the only time I trade them is if my guy's gone, usually. But I was offered an overwhelming offer for I'm not even going to give it away because it's going to be in next week's video. I had to break this down to 2 parts. But man, I'm really happy with the trade and sad at the same time. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get right into this week's video for you. We're going to talk about 12 trades that'll take you from worst to first. I'm going to do 6 this week, 6 next week. It ran a little longer than I wanted it to, so I really had to break it down into 2 separate weeks. But nonetheless, we'll still go over all of them. This is the team that I did the Let's Rebuild the team I did a Let's Rebuild a Team Together video on, probably I'd say 2 months ago now. And I just didn't get a lot of feedback on it necessarily. And even when I did, it was opinions differed, so it would have been really hard to do it and appease everybody. So I just went ahead and started making trades that I thought made sense for rebuilds. In my opinion, there's certain strategies you use when rebuilding. They're a lot easier when other owners like to trade as well. Most of these trades I feel like are pretty fair value. Obviously I feel like I won them because it's my team. But when I say I won them, it's not to talk crap on the other owner. It's more me looking at it in a biased view. If you guys disagree with me, I'll tell you if I feel like they're even or if I won. I'm not gonna tell you I lost a trade. I don't do that. But for the most part, I feel like most of them are pretty even, especially when you throw salaries and stuff into it. I'll break all that down as best as I can through the video. I do have the dates attached to them, so please take into account that when these trades happen, because one of them are going to look very lopsided. But that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to pull my article up. That way you guys aren't just hearing some names and forgetting who I said or whatever, So I'll go ahead and pull that up here in 1 second, and we will get started. Please, if you want to, follow me on Twitter. Follow at Dynasty Owner. Go ahead and follow Steve Van Tassel and Matt the Jerk as well. And please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and it really helps Dynasty Owner out a lot. The algorithms and all that stuff, good stuff on YouTube. It'll help you see our videos more. It'll help you see Steven and Matt the Jerk's videos as well, and any live streams. All that stuff will come up more if you like these videos. So make sure you're liking the other guys too, not just mine. Here we have. Whoops, I maximized that. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Pull that out. All right. Trade number 1. This happened on October 29th of 2020. I had Christian McCaffrey. I do have the original team. I will pull that up at the end. That way I'm not spoiling all these trades because I have it at the bottom. So if you want to see the original team, just go ahead and scroll to probably the last 50 seconds of the video or so, and you'll see the original team. If you want to just wait, go ahead and wait. But nonetheless, here's the first trade. I sent away Christian McCaffrey and Julio Jones. Christian McCaffrey and Julio Jones. In redraft or something, that would be a bad trade. But I got back, and it wouldn't matter what I got back for him in redraft. It would be a bad trade, pretty much, unless they're giving me their whole team. Even in regular Dynasty, I don't think this trade would make any sense at all. But in Dynasty Owner, I'm going to break it down why I feel like it makes sense and why it happened. But like I said, CMC and Julio, I received a 2021 first, 2022 first, Jalen Reagor, AJ Green. I'm not going to read their contracts out, and as well, all of these contracts are this year's. I did not put last year's contracts in, so take into account AJ Green last year was $17.5 million, I think. So he really matched up with that Julio Jones salary, and it just wouldn't have got done without AJ Green. So basically, when I sent this trade out, I put it out in the chat that I was like, guys, I'm rebuilding. My whole team's hurt. All of my vets are for sale. Let me know who you want. And me and him started messaging. He really wanted CMC, and he wasn't sure on Julio because he didn't know how the deal was going to get done. So I went onto his team, told him I had to have his, obviously the 21 and 22 first. He was like, no problem. And then I wanted Jalen Reagor. That was his youngest receiver that had solid potential. And then the salary, it was just way off because of Julio Jones, $22 million. So I went through his team, and, I'm trying to figure out how to make these salaries work without just strapping myself bad with all, a bunch of extra players and then him not wanting to send the 2 first. So I just looked at all of his players on 1-year deals, and I found the biggest 1-year contract I could, and it ended up being somebody that wasn't very good this year in AJ Green, or last year. And I told him, I was like, look, you throw AJ Green in, or I'll throw AJ Green in if you'll make the deal, and that was a done deal. Obviously I hate getting rid of Christian McCaffrey. He is the fantasy GOAT. But when I made a commitment to a rebuild, I meant it, and I traded my best player away first. I feel like if you really want to commit to a rebuild, that's the route to go. Get rid of your best player first because he's going to net good value. I did trade Jalen Reagor. You won't see him on the final roster in next week's video, but I could not find – there was a glitch of some sort that it was cutting out players of the trades, and I just couldn't figure out which trade he was involved. But he is no longer on my roster. I did flip him into more, and then obviously here over this video and next you'll see what I did with these firsts. Trade number 2 happened the same day, probably minutes after, if I remember right. It was basically an add-on to the trade. We had talked about it before we sent the Julio trade, and the salaries just didn't add up or something. I can't remember what it was, but obviously Mixon was a lot less expensive last year, or a lot cheaper last year. Their salaries were pretty similar for the most part. I think Mixon was actually cheaper, and he wanted a 3rd rounder because Dobbins was a young up and coming running back, on a good rushing team. And I had no problem with that. I was like, look, I'm rebuilding. I don't care about a 3rd round pick. If that's what it takes to get the deal done, I'm going to do it. And now looking back at it, Mixon's making $12 million a year. Dobbins is still at 1.4. I would much rather have Dobbins now in Dynasty Owner. Especially going forward, I got so much more flexibility having Dobbins over Mixon, and he just fits the timeline with my team as well. As where Mixon, he's got a couple more good years left in him, but Dobbins has got a lot more, especially if he can obviously stay healthy. Father Time tends to get these running backs pretty quick, guys. So like I always say, my rule of thumb is if you're rebuilding, 0 running backs on their second contract on your team. That's the way I look at it. I don't care who it is. I don't do it, even as you see up with trade number 1 in CMC. And as you'll see next week, it paid off. Trade number 3 happened a couple days later, October 31st, 2020. I sent away Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, and Devontae Parker. I got back in return every one of his picks, the first, second, third, and 2021. Antonio Gibson, O.J. Howard, Andy Isabella, and Greg Olsen. This is the trade I told you guys was going to look pretty lopsided when you see it. But remember, Leonard Fournette was just starting to find his groove at this point. I think he just had that big game. There was one game he came out and had a huge game. I think I traded him right after that. And then Devontae Parker, obviously, he had a so-so year, but he was a decent name at the time. And, I turned that into Antonio Gibson. I don't care about the other players. They were basically in there for salary. He was really strapped against the cap, so I had to find a way to make that work. And Greg Olsen was like $7 million. So that was the AJ Green play I took here, was putting Greg. I was like, look, I'll take Greg Olsen's salary and free up some space for you, to throw in. I think it was his second or something like that. And no, not a problem. And, like I said, you guys might be looking at this trade and saying it's lopsided, but guess what? The dude won the championship. This trade helped him win the championship. He was going for the chase for the ring at the time. I cannot remember if Nick Chubb was hurt when this trade went down, so he was getting a full-on starting running back. Like I said, Leonard Fournette had his big game, and then Devontae Parker was Devontae Parker. So he really – and Antonio Gibson hadn't broke out yet at all. So that was all on potential. I had J.K. Dobbins and Gibson who hadn't really touched the field yet in the last 2 trades, and I just based it. I bet on potential at that point and was hoping to buy them low, and that's what happened. I got both of them pretty cheap because I bought them before they really blew up. I always say, and I'm sure I know I've put this in other articles. When you commit to a rebuild, don't do it playoff time. Don't do it before the season starts. Do it in the middle of a season. You're always going into a season, you should already know I'm rebuilding or I'm competing. Now, if you go into a season and you're rebuilding, obviously you're probably not going to do very well that year. But if you go into a season competing and a bunch of players get hurt and they're starting to get older, bam, time to go into a rebuild. And that's exactly what I did. And like I said, he won the championship and did very well in the chase for the ring. So obviously that trade worked out for him. A lot of us would sacrifice 2 or 3 years for a championship, and really he only had to sacrifice 1 in Antonio Gibson. Obviously the Gibson part kind of sucks for him now, but hindsight 2020, man, you won a championship. I'd be thrilled with that. I'm sure you are as well. And he overcame the Alvin Kamara 6-touchdown game to win the championship. Trade number 4, March 22nd, 2021. So we're getting into the offseason now. I sent out Jameis Winston and Latavius Murray, and I got back Deontay Johnson. This was right after the Winston news broke, that he was re-signing with the Saints and he was probably going to be the starter. I knew he needed a quarterback and running back. I believe he sent me the offer. Actually, yeah, he did send me the offer. He sent an offer a message, I shouldn't say offer. And he's like, I'm interested in Winston. You want to get rid of him? I was like, absolutely. Let me take a look at your team. I said, would Deontay Johnson work? We made the deal. I threw in Latavius Murray. He needed running back help, and I didn't think he would just send over Jameis Winston, who might not even be the starter for Deontay Johnson. So I threw in Latavius Murray for him too. Murray's not, anything to write home about, but if Kamara goes down, he's a gem. Winston, if he can just fix his turnover problems and he does get the job, it's a good trade for him. But that's a big if. I got Deontay Johnson. I feel he's a very talented kid. Obviously, Ben's going to be retiring soon, but he's still got the talent, and Pittsburgh will find a quarterback. They always find a way. So I'm happy with this trade. As long as Winston's starting, he'll be happy with this trade. So this is definitely, I feel, even. I would do this over again in a heartbeat, and I'm sure, as it stands now, he probably would too. Trade number 5 happened March 24th, 2021. I sent out Corey Davis, 2021 105, the 312, and in his 2022 second. I received the 2021 26 AJ Brown. I was thrilled with this deal. And this is one of those, a couple weeks back I was telling you guys, if you're going to cut one of these guys, send trade offers to every member of your league. Every single one of them, send a trade offer. Don't just outright cut somebody. Wait till the last minute if you have to, but send offers. And I sent this offer out for Corey Davis, and he sent something. I think he just sent this offer straight back. I can't remember. I can't remember. But anyways, regardless, he sent this offer back, and I couldn't hit accept fast enough. I hated getting rid of the 105, but A.J. Brown at that point is the potential wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. He's still, I feel like, probably at least in the running. Maybe I might move him down a spot or two. I haven't fully figured out my rankings yet, but from where I haven't had him at now, I have Justin Jefferson as the Dynasty wide receiver 1 just because I feel like Thielen's fading faster than the public thinks. But A.J. Brown was 2, and then DK Metcalf, and then Calvin Ridley. I still love Devontae Adams and all that. I'm talking just pure young wide receiver. I worded that way wrong because Devontae Adams is absolutely up there. And Nuke Hopkins and Tyreek Hill, all them guys. But as far as young guys, Dynasty wide receivers go, you don't get much better than A.J. Brown. So I took the deal, no problem. And then as you'll see here with the next trade, it's crazy. I ended up getting the 105 back, I'll tell you that. But anyway, with this, I didn't want Corey Davis at $12.5 million going to the Jets. I'm not a huge Wilson guy. I didn't care for Darnold. The Jets are just the Jets. I know it's unfair to the new coaching regime and all that, but Gase really just left a sour taste in my mouth for that offense, and I'm not about it. So I had no problem getting rid of the 1.5, the 312, and a 2022 second to get AJ Brown. Plus I got the 2.6 back. So I loved the deal. I'd do it in a heartbeat again. Personally, I feel like I won the deal, but it really depends on what he turns the 1.5 into and how well Corey Davis plays in New York to really determine who won this deal. And last but not least, this week we have trade number 6. It happened March 28th, 2021. I sent out the 2021 112 and 2 2022 firsts. And I got back the 1.5 and the 106 and the 306. Like I said, a trade. I definitely wasn't expecting it. I was caught way off guard by this deal. But he was like, look, I'm trying, I really like the 2022 class. I can't remember the exact conversation we had. I couldn't find it. But I'm pretty sure he wanted to stock up on 2022 picks. And he was like, would you be interested in the 105 and the 106? Absolutely. He sent the deal. At first, I shouldn't say absolutely. At first, I was a little torn on it. Do I want three for? I was rebuilding, and I wasn't exactly, where my team is now. I'm very glad I made this deal, but at that time, 2022 was an important draft for me, and I wasn't sure on it. But looking at the two players I just got, I had Deontay Johnson and AJ Brown. I loved the way the 2021 rookie draft was looking. I loved who was at 5 and 6 potentially, so I took the deal. And as well, you'll hear people mention all the time, study your league mates and things like that, study their rosters, blah, blah, blah. When I made this deal, I went and looked at these 2022 first, and they both had solid teams. So they're going to be, I felt like all three, obviously the 2021 is already set with the 112, but I felt like all three of them would be the eighth pick or later, guaranteed, just by the way their teams looked. And that's the main reason I did it. I was like, I'd rather have the 1-5 and 1-6 than 3 picks after 8. So I took the deal, and I have to say I'm really happy with it. All these trades were made obviously with a thought towards the future and not right now. If I'm thinking right now, I'm never getting rid of CMC, things like that, especially for, what it looks like Jalen Reagor and 2 firsts. Let's go back up to that one real quick. Yeah. It looks like I got rid of CMC and Julio Jones for 2 firsts and Jalen Reagor and AJ Green. That's terrible, but if you really look at it in Dynasty Owner, I knew CMC was getting that massive, massive deal. Right now, obviously you see the number there. I wanted to stay flexible. Julio had a $22 million contract. I got him to give me a first for that, or Jalen Reagor, whichever way you want to look at it. I guess I look at it as I got 2 firsts for McCaffrey and Reagor for Julio, and I'm more than happy with that because of the salary Julio's at. So you guys, when you're making these trades, you got to make sure you take the salaries into account. You can't go offer somebody McCaffrey and Julio for 4 or 5 studs because that, the salary that they're paying them just isn't necessarily worth it. They can pay one of them, but not both of them, and get rid of all these guys. And like I said, you just got to have some value on your roster, so you can't get rid of all your value for McCaffrey and Julio. It just wouldn't work out that way. So you got to take these salaries and stuff into account when you're trading. Everybody's going to have different values on these players. That's why I try to hammer the point. Get in your chat, message people when you're ready to trade. There are some dead points of the year where people just aren't trading, and that's okay, but when you're ready to trade, just message, and when they're free, they'll message back. Start a little bit of a conversation, and I promise you trading gets easier. This league I'm showing you these trades from, the league's been up, I think it said 260 days if I remember correctly, and we've made 50 trades. That's not a crazy amount, but it's a good amount of trades. It's a lot of activity. You can really rebuild your team quickly, and as you guys will see next week, man, this team's going to be competing this year, and if not this year, I'm going to make probably 1 or 2 more trades to really get it filled out. But man, I'm excited to see where it goes. Next week, I'll show you guys the original team. If you want to see the original team this week, you can go check out my article. If not, I will show you both in the video next week, as far as my original drafted team and my current team. I will give you a little sneak peek. There's only 5 players I have left on that's on my roster now that I drafted, which are Justin Jackson, Michael Pittman, Anthony Miller, Quintez Cephas, and Dallas Goedert. Other than that, I got rid of all of them, whether it's cutting, trading, dropping, whatever. They're all gone except for those 5, and I think you guys will really be pretty impressed with this rebuild. I know I am. I might just be tooting my own horn. I don't know, but I did this in less than a year, and I feel like I'm going to be competing for a championship already, and that's not always easy to do, especially when you got salaries involved. But luckily, my league mates, man, they're trade happy, and it's been a fun league. If any of you guys watch my videos in the league, thanks. Thanks for trading. I love trading. It's so much fun. I'm sorry I reject trades. Honestly, I hate rejecting a trade. I'm like, man, they're never going to want to trade with me again if I reject this. But I always try to counter, except for when it's my draft picks. Like I said, I have a plan when I go into that rookie draft, and I try to execute that plan at all costs. That being said, guys, make sure you like the video. Like I said earlier, give us all a follow on Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week.